Welcome, everyone, to the High Performance Legal Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Arkfeld, president and founder of Prevail Legal Marketing. And today we have Shawn Hill joining us, who is the community marketing director at NiceJob. NiceJob is the easiest way to get more reviews, referrals, and sales. Shawn, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
Great. Before we started recording, you and I started chatting a little bit about reputation marketing versus reputation management, and I had no idea there was a difference. So let's get the conversation started there. Tell us about those two different concepts and how they're different.
Yeah, so many people might have heard the term reputation management. It's one of the more popular terms that's been around, and I'll be honest, it's actually where NiceJob started. And reputation management is, in a highest level, is about trying to get good reviews and doing what you can to kind of not get the bad ones. And so a lot of people that gravitate towards reputation management are as passionate about good reviews as they are fearful of bad reviews. And what we've noticed, and NiceJob's been around about 4 years or so, fast growing startup getting to our next level now. But what we noticed was some people started taking tactics that, for lack of a better word, just were a little bit greasy, like you weren't quite compliant. So you might have heard of things like review gating, which is the old process of you send someone an email saying, how would you rate your experience 1 to 10? And if it's like 7 and below, then it goes to a private inbox. But if it's 8 and above, then we'll push them towards a Google to leave a review. That's against Google's terms and practices. If you're doing that currently, please stop. It will get you in trouble. They're getting better at catching on to it. It's one of the mandates that Google's looking for, is to try to crack down on that practice even harsher. But that all came from this presence of, all right, well, when we get a bad review, it can sink us, and we're kind of fearful of it. So we made the shift to reputation marketing. Reputation marketing is that not only are you collecting reviews, you're kind of taking them all in, but you're learning about them, you're kind of analyzing them, and you're using the key, nuggets, those gold nuggets there, to help your marketing efforts across the board. So with NiceJob in particular, the way this works is you have an automated system to collect reviews. So simple for your client, simple for yourself. It could even be a set it and forget it type thing, where once you have it rolling, it can automate itself almost instantly. In addition, you can take those reviews, share them into your social media. So if you get a review on Google My Business, you can auto share that to Facebook. And also, you can analyze your reviews. So we have a couple of tools, really easy, that show you kind of the insights. So maybe how many reviews you're getting on each platform, even including which members of your staff or your team are getting those reviews because they're initiating the invite. And then also what we're really excited about is topic insights. So it's actually machine learning. So it's not just keyword tagging, but it'll tell you exact sentiments and the context of what's being said in your review. So that'll let you know perhaps where you can direct your marketing, or where you can make changes within your business to improve on some things that are being said by your clients. But overall, you're taking all this feedback in and actually building it as a part of your business, as opposed to just kind of crossing your fingers, reputation management, and hoping that you're getting good reviews and not bad reviews, and not really knowing what to do with it. So that's a very high level. You got to kind of get into the nuance, but I would just think of reputation marketing as take like brand marketing and reputation management, take the best parts of those and put them together, and you get reputation marketing. And especially we've seen over the past 2 years, it's almost an integral part of every business now.
Yeah, that is such an amazing idea and concept. I mean, you hear people talk all the time about interviewing your best customers and what do they like about you and why did they hire you, right? And so like that's common. Like there's not anybody listening to this that hasn't heard that. But it's sort of time consuming. And if you're soliciting reviews like you're talking about, ask people for reviews, you're getting that information, but it's hard to aggregate it and like look at the sentiment like you said. And so it's fascinating that you can match up the messaging that you're putting out with the reviews that you're getting in, which you were telling me about earlier before, to match and see, hey, are the things that we're talking about what our customers are talking about? Do those things line up? And they may not line up, and then you can make changes there.
Yeah, and it's if they not line up, or perhaps there's something that you didn't expect that is happening. A classic example is sometimes people, when they think about how they're setting up their office and things like that, they're, oh, well, we'll provide this type of water, or we'll have the person do this, and we'll have them be greeted this way. And if you're not seeing any of that kind of reflected within your reviews, doesn't mean to stop those things, but it might be something that you don't have to put any more resources in, right? Maybe they're fine with the magazines you have in your waiting room, or they're fine with the water cooler as opposed to, a bottle or something like that. But then additionally, if they come in and you see those small little nuggets where they're like, oh, I like the fact that they did X, or, my great experience started with this. That's like a key phrase we always tell people to hone in on, because sometimes they'll talk about the end product. With NiceJob, we also deal with a lot of like home service professionals. And so many people are like, oh man, my carpet looks great. Like my carpet is clean. And that's what everyone sort of focuses on. Like, oh, we should market that we clean the carpets. Well, you're a carpet cleaning business. That should be the expected goal. But they talk about how polite your technician was. They talk about the fact that they liked your uniforms. They talk about the fact that, you're on time. Those small little things that may not get the glory and you don't think is like the dream ad copy, but that's probably that gray area where they're deciding between you and a competitor. Those small little differences, because they're all expecting from everyone they research, their goal is to be happy and satisfied. So sometimes just saying like, hey, if you want this, you'll get this. Well, that's kind of what they're expecting. That's why they're doing business with you. But all the small things, those little wins along the way, those are things that you can put into your marketing. You'll probably see increased click-throughs because now you're really grabbing their attention, but also you're setting the expectation for that 5-star service, or even the 8-star service. You can't get an 8-star review yet, but if you do 8-star service, that means you're gonna be netting 5-star reviews like crazy. And so setting expectations properly is what's going to lead to more good reviews. And so by collecting as many as you can, and that includes the bad ones. Bad ones can be great marketing opportunities. You don't want to make a habit of collecting them, but just because you get a bad one, it's not really going to sink you if you respond correctly and things like that. But it's the closer you get to realizing what your reputation is, the more that you can do things that'll impact it. Because in the end, you kind of don't own your reputation, right? It's kind of in the hands of others.
Can you talk a little bit about? You said bad reviews can be a great marketing opportunity. What do you mean by that? How does that work?
Yeah, so if you think about almost romantic relationships, and it sounds like I'm going off the rails here, but trust me, it makes sense. When you get to the point of commitment or marriage, things like that, you do some vows, right? You make some statements and some promises, and they all tend to have something along the lines of, in good times and bad, sickness and health, and all that. And that's because with any relationship, you kind of want to know what it's going to be like at its best, but you want to be able to know that it's not going to be as bad when it's at its worst. And that's the same with businesses. Across different industries, people want to know what's going to happen when you're at your best, but that's what you're putting on your website, in your advertising copy and things like that. But the reason that people look at reviews is they see customer stories and they're going to identify with the customer or identify with the situation. And so sometimes that bad review that is like, oh, I didn't like, the fact that I was kept on hold while trying to book on the phone and all these other things, you get the opportunity to respond to that review. And you also get the ability to improve from that review. And you can put in your response that you're going to improve. I tell everyone, think of negative reviews in this sort of like physical way. Is imagine someone's in a brick and mortar office and they're yelling and screaming their bad review. This is the worst, and I can't believe blah, blah, blah. And then they go and they close the door and they walk out. That's what leaving a review is for them. But you are in that room still, and there might be future customers in that room. So your response is a little bit less talking to that customer that stormed off and more so who's still left in the room. So that's how I use it as a marketing opportunity, because you could own it if you make a genuine mistake. We apologize. We always try to be as quick as we can on the phone. In that situation, we fully understand that we didn't meet, the experience that you're looking for and the experience we strive for. Thankfully, from this moment, we're going to start making structural changes to ensure that this doesn't happen again, because this is not how we want to be. You can completely own the mistake. Yes, it's us. If it's a completely false review, all you want to do, again, is talk to the people in the room. So someone comes and says, like, I thought by doing this that I was going to be completely satisfied and somehow look 10 years younger. And I can't believe this didn't happen. Well, that's when you go like, hey, we cannot promise that, that's above and beyond our expectation, above and beyond the status that we set. We are disappointed that you weren't happy with the things that we did accomplish, this, and this. We'd love to rectify the situation. If there's anything that we could do, we're always open to improve and kind of and connect. So just by setting up those things, those bad reviews, is when someone goes through and does that tactic of, well, I look at the 3 best reviews and the 3 worst reviews. They're already going to be looking at your bad reviews. So when they're looking, what are they finding? If they find that you are open to feedback, you are able to take constructive criticism, or you're able to look objectively at people's experiences, what that starts to show potential customers and potential clients is, if during the process, before we get to the very end, before you're willing to leave a review, you have an issue, we're open to that. And you'll start to see bad reviews don't come around when you fear them less, because now you're addressing them earlier on. You're presenting a trust with your clients that, hey, at any point, give me feedback. I'm going to ask you for a review at the end, but at any point, give us feedback and let's guide it along. All bad reviews are failure to meet expectations. And so those expectations can be unrealistic. That's true. But if you can guide along that entire process of, hey, we're open to feedback, we want to hear what you have to say, and we want to make sure that we're setting proper expectations, that you understand them and that we can achieve them, you'll start to see that the bad reviews are ways that people go and try for themselves because they don't identify with that, or they've seen your improvement. And you'll start to see people go, the dream review, almost, not the dream review, but one of the better ones is, I saw a bad review and that was the complete opposite experience. Now you have social proof that further invalidates that bad review as well. So, it can be great marketing. 5-star reviews are better marketing. I don't want to make it like I'm trying to say bad reviews are that great, but bad reviews are still a mineral. So gold is 5-star, but there's still some viable minerals in the 1-star reviews as well.
Well, and the reality is you might just get some low reviews. And so you need to know how to handle them. And I love that suggestion of, you can either be talking to the person if the review is legitimate and you made a mistake and you didn't uphold your commitments, or if it's just totally wildly off the mark, then you think about talking to everybody else in the room. You don't really need to necessarily, I guess you're addressing that person, but really, like, conceptually, you're talking to everybody else. Like, hey, like, these expectations are not in alignment at all. And I like that mindset of like, all right, did we make a mistake? And like, how do we address that? Or is this really like unrealistic? And then how do we address that?
Yeah, I would even fine tune it a bit more. Is you're definitely talking directly back to the person, because people, when they leave reviews, they want to know that they've been heard and they do want to be responded to. But the people that are probably listening, unfortunately, is probably not the person who left the bad review. It's the next people. And so that's why what the language you're using and the sentiment that you're pushing is like, and you can't BS it. You have to hear them. You have to listen to them. You have to look at your negative reviews and figure out if it's something you made a mistake on, or even if you didn't make a mistake at all, why did they have that expectation that you couldn't fulfill? And if it's unrealistic, why do they have that? Was it early in the process you didn't, say that? Was it something that maybe you're leaving a little too open-ended and allowing people to kind of extend their expectations a bit too further? So you talk directly to them, maybe in the language you're using, but know that people are listening to it. And the people that are going to be most affected by it is the future, not necessarily the present. If the person gives you a chance to fix your mistake, that's great. Take that advantage and turn it into a 5-star review. But unfortunately, as much as I'd love to say they're going to listen, give you an opportunity, chances are they left their review or their closing and they don't want to hear from you at all. But you get the last word in that statement. So make that last word something that helps you in the future. Don't worry about kind of fighting the past in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. The other thing you sort of talked about was, it almost, everyone talks about the best case scenario, right? In your marketing and when you're positioning your company, it's like, we're going to do this, we're this. You're just talking about all the best things about your company. The way that you respond to a negative review, like you were saying, is you're kind of showing like what the worst case scenario is, right? You're basically like, all right, if something goes really off the rails, this is how we're going to address it. And I love that, because then people are like, all right, if they're like trying to assess, it's like return policy, right? Well, if I don't like this thing, is there a return policy? How hard is it? Do I have to pay for shipping? Sort of like that. If you're in a services business, it's like, all right, like what's the damage, the problem policy? How are they going to respond to me? I love that.
Oh, it's the pillar of trust. I want to know if I'm taking this opportunity to enter into a business relationship with you, what'll happen if it goes really, really bad. You think about it almost like fast food restaurants, right? I don't think anyone goes like, this is gonna be the best hamburger I've ever had in my life. The reason you go is, you know what? It's not gonna hurt my budget. At the very least, I know the standard it's gonna be. And again, so you have this unlimited trust in that sort of scenario. Because when it's bad, then you kind of know why it was bad, because you've made decisions not based on quality, but based on how quickly I can get the food or how cheaply I can get the food. But when you're diving in, you're looking for certain sort of things. Sometimes there's a lot of different competitors there. So the difference between a Burger King and a McDonald's, you're trying to maybe to dive through and figure it out. But reviews in general serve as like social proof. And so that's why McDonald's for the longest time had over, 1 billion served or something like that. saying, look, all these people had us. We're the choice. We're the choice for you. And so I think when you think about what are people looking at in your reviews, is they want to have a little bit of social proof for people to say it's okay. But also they want to know that if they go into the situation, they can have no bad expectations, but they still want to keep a modicum of control. You could be the type of business where you are a problem-solving business. You have something that you can't do. You know you can't do. We're going to solve that for you. We're the experts. We're the most trained. We're the only ones that can, whatever the situation is. But no one wants to ever feel kind of like a fool. And no one ever wants to feel. There's so many people that are almost ad conscious now. That's why, the recent study that it's 12 times more believable, something said through a genuine customer review, than sales ad copy, is because people have kind of, there's been enough advertising classes taught that people are catch on to it. But the reason that ads still work and the reason that it all is there is people know that they need to be advertised to. They know that they need to be presented these options. So if you can build something that says, hey, does this seem right? Well, this social proof means you can trust that feeling. These reviews mean you can trust that feeling, because if you're not quite sure, you think it might go bad, well, here's a situation where it did go bad. This is how I responded to it. And you see, that was a year ago and no one said that again. You can now trust that we improved on it. And if you start working with us and we haven't improved on it, well, that's the business's fault. You were kind of told that this is something that customers don't like, stuff, things like that. But more often than not is you're building this trust that's going to allow them to kind of make the decision process. And there's some people that are kind of oppositional defiant, right? That they want to say like, oh, this business seems so great. Well, I don't think so. That's a customer. If you win them over, man, that's a huge advocate for you, right? If you can win over someone that already came in, like, I'll trust you, but not quite all the way. So that's why we're big proponents of social proof. That's also, like I said, why we moved to reputation marketing, so reputation management. Because reputation management, you kind of have that little bit of grease if you're trying just to keep people away. So the part that we took from reputation management and made a pillar of reputation marketing is the quick, simple, easy way to get reviews, right? That's where reputation management really started, was people are like, well, how do I get reviews? Well, you got to ask, you want to have a follow-up system, you want to do all that. We made all that part really, really easy and put that into our reputation marketing pillar. And the parts we want further is, what extra data are you getting and how are you maximizing that? So how are you turning that review into something that leads to customer-driven growth, where one customer is leading to another customer, leading to another customer? And how do you take that review and turn it into things and changes that you can put within your business to make you a better business? And like I said, make you a little bit more Teflon to a bad review even coming in.
Yeah. Now, when you're soliciting reviews or asking for reviews, maybe soliciting is not the right word, from customers, when NiceJob is the platform, how do you decide or know which networks you want to get the review on? Do you want Google reviews? Do you want Facebook reviews? Do you want Yelp reviews? How does that work?
So there are two ways I can answer that. And I'm going to give both. And the very quick is, the first one is wherever it's the easiest for your customer to leave a review, right? The one thing that stops reviews, and one thing we try to work in with our software, is someone going like, oh, I sent you a link to my Google page. Well, that person doesn't use Google, right? They're still using Hotmail, using Yahoo, they're using something else. And they don't have a Google account. And Google asks them to log in, and they're trying to log in. Like, I got set up, I'm not going to use this. Why am I saying? And all that gets in the way of them leaving a review. When guess what? They're actually a big Facebook person. They'll go leave you a Facebook recommendation like that, right? Or they're really big on Better Business Bureau. They know someone that used to work there or something like that. So, like, and give them the path least resistance. So what NiceJob has built into it is some, detection software and things like that. They'll tell like, hey, we've noticed that there is a Google account. It's safe to direct them that way. We see that they had like, Facebook app on their phone. It's no like data kind of crossed over in that sense, but has those ways to make it simple. So the first thing you want to do is have a process that has as little roadblocks as possible. You can use automated software like NiceJob that has kind of the smart tech to do that. Or at the very least, maybe at some point during an intake process or things like that, you make that connection of, hey, have you ever left reviews before? Where do you generally leave reviews? Something like that. The second part is Google. The answer is pretty much Google. And the reason why is Google not only is a review platform and the largest search engine, but it's connected across so many different platforms, YouTube, things like that. You're gonna get so much optimization just from a Google review. But if you're using something like NiceJob, you can have it posted on Google and then share it as a Facebook post and share it on your Twitter account or things like that. So I want to make it very clear, NiceJob doesn't allow, because it's against practices, that like someone leaves it in one text box and it's automatically posted to all these different platforms. These are all native reviews left on these platforms. They can get all the juice they possibly can. But the reason that I say Google far and away is Facebook does have a lot of traffic. It definitely has grown as a recommendation platform. I definitely think it's important there, but you probably can get the same from posts as much as you could organic recommendations. But I probably have Google as my one, Facebook probably as my two. Then maybe in some of the Home Advisor, things like that. There's certain ones, and at NiceJob we're always trying to find new platforms, that are viable for certain industries and things like that. But if you're starting with Google, that's probably your most exposure without having to do too much afterwards. And then if you take the copy and put it into ads and you're running through whatever system you want, the fact that it can always revert back to Google is always a kind of a pleasure. So I think Google is probably where, if someone's like, where should I start? That's what I recommend. But if you know your audience is really passionate on Facebook and it's simple for people to do it there. Yelp is kind of a tricky one. They don't allow third-party apps to post directly. So we've made it as quick as we possibly can, but Yelp tries its best to put roadblocks in the way. And then also Yelp in particular, some of their business practices and things like that are a little bit tricky for business owners. So that's the one that unfortunately has like the name appeal that might be the one I wouldn't recommend as much. But yeah, if you're leading with Google, you're going to be okay. But once again, part of the reason of reputation marketing, we tell you about being more connected to your reputation is if more people are looking for your type of business on this platform, then try to get as many as you can there. But Google's a good catch-all for everybody.
Yeah. And in the legal space, with local service ads that are the ads at the top, those have reviews right next to them. So it's really important to see the reviews in the local service ads when someone's clicking that link. So I think Google for sure in the legal space. And that's fascinating. I didn't know that you could do something like what you described, the smart technology of like looking at an email and seeing if they have a Google account. I mean, you can, that's a thing. I never knew that was a thing, or like that type of, that like really fascinates me.
Yeah, so I mean, it's smart detection. I'd love to say it's it's completely 100% foolproof, things like that. But the percentage rate, it's probably your 98, 99, if I'm being kind of honest. The 1% that kind of sneaks through, or if you get someone that, for example, like a government worker that has super encryption all over their phone and things like that, it's a little bit harder. But more often than not, when I say that is, that's about presenting it, right? So when you ask for a review with NiceJob, it starts with a text message. In that text message is a link. When you click a link, it says, where would you like to leave your review? And you can order those platforms. So you within your app can say, have Facebook be the top choice, Better Business Bureau be the second choice, Google be the third choice, right? You can say that, not the order you recommend, but you could. And so when it's presented, those are the order will be presented in. But if we determined, and we can tell that they don't have Facebook, then we're not going to list that as the top one. It's not going to be the first option, because we want them to be as quick as possible. But if someone knows it on Facebook and they see it, and they see those other ones right there, chances are they're going to click on another platform organically. So, I always try to be careful, because I know people are and it's a good thing to be mindful of well, who's getting my data and who's doing this. And I don't want to say like, if you leave a review on NiceJob, that NiceJob's really getting any of your personal data or anything like that. As someone leaving the review, that doesn't happen. But being able to detect like, okay, we can see this is a pathway that should be successful, then it allows us. But you ultimately, as the business owner, you do have control of what review sites they're directed towards. You can make it, for example, that you only connect Google, so it's only going to send them to Google because it's the only thing you have connected on your review platforms. But obviously, it's a little bit of a kind of function and strategy, right? So functionally, you can present all these options in any order you want and make it sort of happen, and use the smart tech. We have also a little toggle for optimize, which is to help kind of with that order as well. But as a business owner, you have the tool to send it wherever you want it to go. But that smart tech, like I said, just takes one step out of the equation. And you think about all the times, I mentioned it starts with a text message, but it follows up with up to 3 emails if needed. Once someone leaves a review, they don't get any follow-ups out of the queue, no big deal. But the reason that we know that the follow-ups are the most important is that classic scenario of, hey, would you leave me a review? Sure, cool, I just sent you a text message. Pick up your phone, you look at it, you turn around, your dog's gotten into something. Or as you're walking out and you're going to your car, you realize you got a parking ticket or something like that. Or not even something that dangerous, you get a text, you're about to leave a review, and your buddy's like, dude, are you watching this? And you text him back like, no, what's happening? Something like that. Life gets in the way. So the follow-ups and the fact that when they eventually are ready to leave a review, it's super, super quick. That's how you get 2 to 3 times more reviews, because you're making it super easy for them. It's incredibly easy for you as a business owner, but the most important part is incredibly easy for them. But that smart tech, even the detection where we have like customer matching. So for example, I'll even use myself example is Shawn Hill, birth name, things like that. I've gone by Shawnee, so just a little Y on the end for a long time, like Google, Shawnee Hill, things like that. And so when I leave a review, it comes up as Shawnee Hill. Well, that might not match the name in the system technically, because Shawn Hill, Shawnee Hill could be two separate people. And so NiceJob will detect like, hey, is this actually Shawn Hill? Or, sometimes we get it with maiden names. Is Kirsten Hill actually, it says Kirsten S, but you have an invoice for Kirsten Hill. Is that actually correct? So with that matching, allows people to get out of queues quicker, so you're not sending follow-ups and things like that. With that detection, it makes sure it's really easy for them to leave a review as quickly as possible. But yeah, all that is, that's what we're trying to be with the tech side. We're trying to be as forefront as we can, as cutting edge as we can, to use an old term there. But it's all because if you make this process simple, it gets super effective. And it's so important, reviews and reputation, that it makes no sense not to have a system in place that makes it as effective as possible.
Now, for attorneys, there are sort of two different scenarios. There's people that have a one-time, sort of engagement where they're filing for a bankruptcy, maybe a divorce, and in those cases, like the process is typically fairly long. Criminal defense, whatever, where it could be 3, 6, 12 months, whatever the case may be. And then there's also more ongoing, like professional services type relationships where you're a contract lawyer or a business lawyer, where it's like, it's not a one and done. It's like, you're kind of like working together long-term. So in those two scenarios, which are different, my first question is sort of like, when do you ask for the review? And I think that maybe that's more for like the long-term scenario. But then the second one is, logistically speaking, how do you trigger those reviews to go out at the right time, with such long durations? They're different than a home services company, which is very transactional, like they come, they do the work at the house, they leave, the review's probably sent right away. So how does that process integrate into a law firm?
So in the law firm in particular, there's a couple of avenues that we're looking for. We actually have a newer integration with Clio software. And from there, there's some automatic triggers from what you're doing in Clio that can trigger a review response. So, a case being closed, I think is what's in there, or a couple other different things. But I'm going to use NiceJob as the example towards the end, but just in general, when should you be asking for reviews? Because I think just starting there will kind of help put the mindset in order. Is you want to start making sure that you're gauging at key points. And so we'd love to say that the best time to ask for a review is the moment of peak happiness, when they're the most excited. But using peak and almost mountain terminology is, you need to have some base camps along the way. Small little wins, small little opportunities for them to, have a good feeling about you. And also for them, what they're getting is a reason to stay more and more connected, to work their way up to that moment of peak happiness, especially in longer litigation or longer cases. As everyone probably listening to this knows, is there's going to be certain times where the emotional roller coaster might kind of go back and forth. So when the time to ask for a review, if you can get it at that moment of peak happiness, is probably your best for success. However, if you can find an opportunity where they're happy about one part of the process, that could be an opportunity to gauge if they would leave a review. And I know in some situations, I use the old Animal House joke of like, I don't know the law too much, I was pre-med, and then switch it later to pre-law if I'm talking about medical things. But I know there's either some state jurisdiction, things like that, where you can't really ask for a review or ask for certain feedback before a certain part in a case, because then it seems like forget the statute, but like, you're only going to do a good job if you get that, that sort of deal. So what I'm going to say is, you should always be gauging feedback, and then let them know that there's a process for them to leave that as a review if they want to do so. And sometimes we found in the law profession is, you'll kind of, that moment attained. So if you're constantly checking in, getting some feedback, so you're like, oh man, like, yeah, I love what you did there. This is so simple. I talked to 2 other lawyers and they never put it in one document, just like you did. I love this, man. Like this, hey, this right here, this is why I'm telling people about you. And that's when you go, oh, you're telling people about me? Like, actually, would you be willing to just leave a review? And it sounds dumb, and it sounds like, oh yeah, that's a dream scenario the review guy thought up of. But that does legitimately happen, because you've now built this center of trust. As for figuring out at what time it should go out, it depends also what you're asking the review on. There are some people, for example, we here at NiceJob as a company, is we do send review requests out to our community to review NiceJob software at different parts in the cycle. So sometimes we get them right after their trial. they're 2 weeks in, they're fresh and new, so that people can get a review and social proof of what it's like to be a brand new customer of NiceJob. We also reach out after about, if you've been with NiceJob for about 2 years, so they can talk about the evolution of NiceJob. So if someone's like, all right, I want a long-term solution, what are those reviews like? And so I'd recommend the same kind of for law firms, is perhaps there's a time to say, hey, we'd love for you to write we'd love to get some feedback from you. You don't say write a review, but get some feedback from you about our intake process. We would love to know, how the kind of start we got off to. If you feel like we're kind of, heading in the right direction, things like that. We'd love to hear about that. Or, hey, final payout just came your way. I know it's been kind of long, but love to kind of get your what your thoughts were kind of throughout the whole process. I love we could document that maybe through a customer review or things like that. So you find these organic times that'll kind of come together. But if you have a goal in mind of what you want your review to say, almost, one, you can start crafting that through the actions that you take. So making sure that your intake is super clean, making sure that it is very detail oriented, make sure it's very caring. You can also make sure that, hey, whenever we go to an appeal process or something like that, or perhaps it's even for divorce, things like that, the 3 months after or something like that, maybe there's a time. If you know what you want to talk about in the review and you know what you're looking to kind of get from, you'll start to identify those timelines of when might be the appropriate time to ask. And when it comes for the actual ask, we always like to say that if you set it up as a real-time moment, you probably get most of them writing that text message right away. Sometimes it even comes down to getting them the old sales tactic of getting them to say yes, right? So okay, so does that all make sense to you? Yes. Okay, cool. Hopefully this worked. I know we got you scheduled as quickly as you could. Did the timing work for you? Is it cool like that? Like awesome. Like, would you want to share your experience thus far? We know our community would love to hear about it. And things like that. And I was like, yes. Be like, cool. Actually, I made it really simple for you. I just sent you a text right now. It has a link. That link's gonna be active. So if you can't do it right this second, don't worry. You come back an hour later, it'll be good. Day later, it'll be good. And also, I'll follow up with an email just in case, because I know life gets in the way sometimes. But if you can do that, it'd be really, really simple. And you'll be surprised, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 times, there's gonna be cool. Click it, go, leave the review, and it's right there. So it's a little bit harder in the law field as opposed to like obviously home services, because there's not that clear moment of peak happiness. Like, hey, the wall's painted, job done, see ya, maybe never. There's always deeper relationships, but because of that, I think that's where the reputation marketing element really helps, is that you're hopefully building a culture within that you're checking at certain times how are you doing. You're making sure that you're meeting expectations. You're making sure that you're keeping a good relationship. And when that time strikes, having a quick, efficient system like NiceJob makes it a little bit less like an awkward process you're going through, and a little bit more just another check in the journey of the relationship of like, oh yeah, and then I left them a review. If you have really, really long-term clients, like ones that you're servicing, you're on retainer or something like that, the one thing I can say about reviews is every 6 to 8 months is probably the best time. So after 6 months and 8 months or that is the best time to refresh a review, so it can get more juice on Google, so it can seem a bit more relevant to future clients. So if you have a long-term relationship, they're willing to leave a review. NiceJob has something in place where someone can't leave a review within 6 months, but I would recommend every 8 to 10 months to re-ping some of your clients to see if they'll update their review or add a bit more to the review, because then you're really maximizing the potential of that review online.
Yeah. And I really like just sort of the phrasing, just saying, hey, will you share your experience versus will you leave a review? Even just that, it's kind of a small thing that you said, but that's just like a really soft way to ask for something. And again, if you're leading with all the yeses, I love that. Like, hey, did everything go well? Yeah. Would you mind sharing your experience? It's like they've already, verbally reviewed you, right? And then it's like, would you mind just sharing that experience of things going well? Oh yeah, sure, yeah. And then hit them up with a link. I love that. It's nice and simple.
And I'll say additionally, you mentioned like perhaps bankruptcy or divorce. It might not be something that people are trying to put on a big old banner out there, and so that's why it's important to maybe for some of those clients, some of those industries, to figure out what you would like the review on, so that they can obviously retain a little bit of their privacy and things like that. But you kind of, I don't want to say that you're building something that's not organically there, but I think you can express to them like, hey, I hope you came to us because you know that we're trustworthy, you know that we're good, you know that we're effective, you know that we're the best at what we do. And so if you wouldn't, if you'd be willing to help us make sure that someone in your situation ends up in the exact chair you are, and not in the wrong chair, like we would appreciate that. It obviously helps us get better as a firm because, a bit more clients, a bit more of that, but then it also allows us to continue to the high level that we're looking for because we're finding more people like yourself, that we're happy to work with and happy to honestly help you. A lot of law firms, it's about help. The law can be for many people, tricky and nuancy, gray areas, things like that. Even when it's black and white, just sometimes in your head it doesn't really click that way, or there's just so much going on and it's such an emotional time for a client's life that you actually are a bit of a lifeline for them. And so by expressing them as, hey, I'm not asking you to share your story. I'm asking you to share your experience, just so if someone's in your same situation, maybe they find us a tiny bit quicker, or at the very least, I hope that when we're done, our case, our relationship, things like that, we're hoping that as satisfied as we know you're going to feel then, that we can then pass it on to others. So that kind of communal feel that, hey, we're a firm that's a part of this community. Even if we're a national firm, right now, this office right here is about this community. So you're helping us, yeah, but you're kind of spreading the word for the community so that hopefully everyone gets the same opportunity you have to be, as happy, as taken care of, or at the very least, as respected as we respect you as our client.
Yeah. All right. One last question here that I want to ask before we wrap up. And that is, what sort of mistakes do you see people making in this whole process? If someone's already collecting reviews, what are some things that they should maybe try? You already mentioned review gating. Is there anything else that's like, hey, probably wouldn't recommend doing that. That doesn't go so well.
Before I do that, the first thing to do is if you're not asking reviews, just do it. Even if you're not using NiceJob, email situation, thinking that you're begging for reviews, it's not true anymore. Everyone knows that reviews are big online and things like that, but then also you're asking for feedback. If someone can leave that in the form of a review, that's great for you. But asking for feedback, like, did you like that coffee? That's all you're doing when you're asking for a review. Did you like the service we provided? Do we meet your expectations? So make sure you're asking first and foremost. If you're already asking, again, review gating is a big thing I want to make sure because it's so enticing. So if someone's really angry, I can just have them yell into the ether. Yeah, but also, what is that saying about you? A prime example that really clicks for people is on Facebook. If you have a Facebook business page, you can do something like delete a comment from somebody or hide a comment. And I always recommend hiding over deleting, because hiding, it might be unfair and things like that. But if you delete a comment, people are wondering why you deleted it. And what I mean by that is that, well, wait, no one knows it deletes it, right? Well, the person that left it, they go back and look for it, they'll see it's deleted. So the biggest thing with review gating is that you're now, while you think you're putting out a fire, all you're having to do is burn in another location. And if that's found, that person's coming back with a can of gas. They're not coming back with water to put it out. So you definitely don't want to review gate, because as much as you think it's going to save you, oh, we're going to have this pristine 5.0 online and never any bad reviews, you want that 4.9 first and foremost, the whole different story, but also it's kind of bad practice. It doesn't really show trust. It shows that you're willing to take feedback only if it's good, and you're not willing to take feedback if it's bad. The second thing where people make mistakes is they don't follow up. They kind of ask once and they feel guilty about asking once, and then they don't follow up at all. As I mentioned earlier, life gets in the way. People like follow-ups. And even if your concern is, well, I already have a follow-up sequence for other things, right? I have a follow-up for billing. I have a follow-up for, the meeting request, or follow-up for, updates on their case. I don't want to add potentially 3 more emails into the process. If you have a dedicated follow-up system and it's dedicated just to that thing, similar to NiceJob, or even if you wanted to take the time and all the effort and program, build your own sequence, having it dedicated just to that process, we've found, and we definitely have seen that no one really sees it as an extra add-on. So you want to make sure you're following up, because the happiest time might get knocked away by another happy time or something else that comes to the thing. Because ultimately what you're doing is saying, hey, I'm making it easy for you to do this when you're ready. And then the last thing that people collecting reviews is, you're not actually looking at what your reviews are saying. That's a big mistake people make. They're so happy, they see 5 stars, they say great, and they post it out, things like that. Actually being able to figure out what are people saying, the sentiment, the context, that'll let you know what is worth marketing to your future clients, potential clients, but also maybe what you should be focusing on when it comes to your operations. What stage in the process are people really raving about, and what stage are we really proud of that they're not talking about, and why aren't they talking about it, right? Do they not understand that the way we present this document is different than all of our competitors? And so you can start taking a look at a lot of those things, especially individuals for your firm, a lot of lawyers on staff. you kind of can figure out, potentially which ones are putting out certain sort of vibes. So yeah, you're all successful. You're winning a lot of cases, or you're getting a lot of successful things, but people actually don't like working with that one, or they don't really prefer that one, or they think this one's a little bit too soft or something like that. So analyzing and understanding what your reviews are is probably the biggest mistake that people make if they have a good system in place. So one, have an honest system. Two, make sure that system, excuse me, is efficient, but has follow-ups in place and allows the client to leave it quickly, but on their time. And the third thing is make sure that if you're getting all these good reviews, you're using them properly, you're using them effectively, but you also understand why the review says what it does. Because once you understand that, that's the mountain, man. That's the gem that's really going to help your marketing be more efficient. It's going to help you get social proof that truly matters. And it's also going to allow you to kind of grow your firm in any direction you want to.
We're running up on time here, but I have one more quick question that came out of that. If somebody already has a couple hundred reviews, can they use a platform like NiceJob to analyze old reviews, or is it only new ones coming in?
Yeah, so when you connect to NiceJob, we will pull in your old reviews to your NiceJob dashboard. The analyzation on post reviews takes a tiny bit longer, but yeah, no, all those will count. Also, if you join NiceJob, your old reviews, they just kind of pour it over, use software. And I'll be honest, if you leave NiceJob, you decide after like the 14-day free trial, or you decide after a year it's not really for you, you don't lose any reviews as well. There's some other platforms that own your reviews. Your reviews are your reviews, so post it natively on those sites. So NiceJob is a tool that helps you get more. It's not something that we're trying to take over the process and not give you the reputation you deserve. So really no fear in that sort of sense. But yes, you can analyze your old reviews, both with the app itself, but also the NiceJob community. We have to tell you a lot of tips. We have our own podcast that you were kind enough to come on as well. So we try to, within our community, make sure there's a network that people can also bounce ideas off one another. Like I said, our integration with Clio and a couple of other things, we're really happy about our expansion into the law field as well. So we'd love for you to join our community. But yeah, if you join, all your old reviews, you'll still be able to use them for that marketing goal, and you will be able to get analysis on those as well.
Awesome. Well, great. I mean, this podcast was incredibly informative for me, and I felt like I knew something about reviews, but been on a marketing agency for 12 years, and I'm like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah. So awesome.
Well, I appreciate the time. And like I said, hopefully I didn't talk a bit too much about it, but we're really excited about the direction that we're heading. And we're also really excited to, connect with new members of our community kind of in the legal field or really across the board. Because as we mentioned, you can tell we love learning and we love evolving, we love growing. And so the opportunity to do that here, I'm very thankful for. So again, I appreciate you having me on the show.
Well, thank you for joining us. And so if someone wants to connect with you personally or check out NiceJob, where should they head?
So pretty simple. You go to nicejob.com. We try to make it as simple as possible for you. You can go there. Our YouTube channel, you can find as well. Just search NiceJob. For me in particular, you can send me an email, Shawn, spelled correctly, SHAWN, shout out to all the scenes out there, at nicejob.com. So SHAWN, Shawn at nicejob.com. I'm the community director, so I'm always about meeting people and not necessarily selling people. If you would like a little bit more information, I definitely can give you that. But I also just love to connect and learn a little bit about more you and your community.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Shawn. Appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, guys.